Welcome to 9.3, Part 2, Area of Composite Figures. So in this section, we're just going to talk about what to do when you get a figure that has more than one shape in it. And there's so many different types of problems that you could see. We're going to do two of them right now. But you're going to see when we get to class and we do the practice, every single problem will be a little different. So I'm going to give you just some problem solving strategies as we go along here. So what's going to happen is you're going to have to find the area. They're going to give you a figure that isn't just a square and isn't just a circle. It's going to be a square or a circle or a triangle or whatever with some extra stuff added together. So for our first one, we've got a square, and then it's got this little top on the top that is a half circle. And I know, well, I could figure out it was a square because these are all the same sides, and these are right angles. And then I know that this right here is 4 units, and that's all I've got to go on. So whenever you do a figure that's complicated like this, you're either going to be adding two things together or you're going to be subtracting two things. In this case, if I was going to find the area of this, I need to find the area of the square, and I'm going to add together the area of this half circle right here. Or a semicircle, I could say. Or the arc is a semicircle. And it's really tempting to try to skip ahead and work fast on this. I really recommend every single time you write down in words what you're doing first, just so your brain can get itself around what's going on here. And then you can be like, oh, well, the area of a square is side times side. I don't know what a side of my square is right now. I'm going to have to figure that out, and we can based on this information. But then the area of a half circle, well, normally a circle is pi times radius squared. Now I only have half of a circle, so I'm going to do 1/2 times my circle because it's a half circle. And then once I know where I'm going, I'll try to figure out the numbers to plug into the formula. For these figures and what we did in 9.3 last time, we're going to use 3.14 for pi. So here's what I got to do. I know this little part is 4. I know my diagram's not perfect. In the book it'll look a little bit better, but it would be clear if you saw this in the book that this section right here is 4 also, and then this section right here would be 4. So with this information they gave us, it's a radius of a circle, but they're also telling us the whole distance across each side of my square is going to be 8 units. So a side is 8. So to find my area, I'm going to do 8 times 8. That's my square area. For my half circle area, the area of my circle is pi times the radius squared, and then I'll times it by 1/2. And notice, when you plug this into your calculator, we're not going to plug in the pi, we're going to plug in 3.14. So I'm going to do 1/2 times 3.14 times 4. So again, I'm going to do 1/2 times 3.14 times 4 squared, and I get 25.12. Add those together, and my final answer is 89.12 units squared. So if I was going to give you a step-by-step for these figures, because again, every single one's going to be different, I would say step 1, write out what you're doing in words. What shapes do you even have? Step 2, figure out what the formulas are for the shapes that you have. And then step 3, fill in your numbers and figure out what it is. We're going to do another one. I'm sure you may have a question or two, so make sure that you circle in your notes or put arrows like, how'd she get this? Or I'm not sure how to do something, something, something. Make sure you write it down, make notes to yourself so you remember when you see Miss Olson next what your questions are. Here's our second figure. So our second figure is a half circle, but in this half circle, there's a center right there, there's actually two smaller half circles cut out of this half circle. And again, my picture is not perfect, but there's two smaller circles cut out of this half circle, and this area right here is shaded. And this time the book is asking us to find the shaded region. Other information we know is that this distance right here is 2 centimeters, and this distance right here, that radius, is also 2 centimeters. I mentioned earlier that sometimes you're going to add together your areas. Last time I added, don't write this down because we already did this, I just want to show you. I added because I was doing this and this. But this time I'm going to subtract because I've got a figure with pieces cut out of it. So alternatively, let's say that instead of the figure I had earlier, I had this. I would have taken my square, subtract my half circle. So if the little extra part juts outside of it, you're adding it. If the little part that's extra is a cutout, you're going to be subtracting it. So this time what I'm going to do in words, again, always in words so you can figure out what's going on, I'm going to find the area of the large half circle, and I have to subtract off these two little cutouts. So I'm going to subtract off the area of the two small half circles. So again, step 1, write out in words what you're trying to do. Step 2, remember what your formulas are. So a circle, the area is pi r squared. Now I'm trying to find a half circle though. So I'm going to do a half times that, again, because it's a half circle. And now here's what's going to be a little confusing. So I've got one small half circle and another small half circle. So my area of my small half circle would be like this, but there's two of them. There's two half circles. So really, if you add them together, it's just one circle. And then we got to figure out what my radius is. So looking at this, my little circles have a radius of 2. Now to find my radius of my bigger circle, again assuming that's a radius, then this part, little part right there, must also be 2 centimeters. So for my big circle, the radius is 4 centimeters. So for my big circle, the radius is going to be 4. All right, let's plug it in. So I've got 1/2 times pi times 4. And remember, the only reason the 1/2 is there is because it's a half circle. And then there's 2 of this type, or really I could just do 2 times 1/2 and I'd have 1, but I'll go with it here. My little circle has a radius of 2. Now sometimes when you're working with pi, it's easy if you just kind of simplify it first without typing pi into your calculator. Here's what I mean. 4 squared is 16. 16 times 1/2 is 8. 16 times 1/2 is 8. So really that's 8 times pi. For this one, 2 times 1/2 is 1. 2 squared is 4. So 1 times 4 is 4. So I've got 8 pi, subtract 4 pi. And my answer is going to be 4 pi. Or 4 times 3.14. And it's 12.56 then. This time I was able to find an exact answer and an approximate solution. So that is helpful. Once again, write down any questions you might have and we'll go over some of these again tomorrow, obviously. All right, thanks for listening.